They don't want you to know this. There's a mental technique so powerful it was reportedly used by some of the greatest minds in history: Nikola Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci, Albert Einstein. And yet, it was buried, ignored, erased from modern education. Why? Because if you discover how to unlock this forbidden mental breakthrough, you won't just be smart, you'll be dangerously intelligent. The kind of intelligence that questions everything, sees patterns others can't, and thinks on a level that breaks the boundaries of reality. And that's exactly what you're about to learn. This isn't just another audiobook. It's one of the most controversial and mind-altering guides ever created. We'll break it down chapter by chapter and show you step by step how to access this hidden power, the intelligence formula they never wanted you to have. Let's begin. You've been lied to about your mind. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at someone who seems insanely smart, a genius in math, a chess master, a strategic mastermind, and thought to yourself, I wish I had a brain like that? They process complex ideas like magic, and then a voice in your head whispers, but I wasn't born that way. That right there is the biggest scam of modern education. You were programmed to believe that intelligence is something you're either born with or without. And if you weren't a gifted child, then you're stuck on the slow path, forever playing catch-up. But here's the truth they never wanted you to know. Genius isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Every highly intelligent person you admire didn't get there by luck. They discovered a mental system, a framework, that allows them to absorb information 10x faster than the average person, to break problems apart, see hidden patterns, and think in ways that defy conventional logic. And the terrifying part? This mental breakthrough has existed for centuries, but it was removed from modern education. Ever wonder why school feels like a prison for your brain? Because it was designed that way. The system wasn't built to create thinkers, rebels, or visionaries. It was designed to mass-produce obedient workers, people who follow rules, memorize facts, and do what they're told without questioning. That's why they never taught you how to really think. Instead, they fed you a one-size-fits-all curriculum that rewards obedience over insight and memorization over imagination. But the minds you admire didn't learn this way. Einstein rejected traditional schooling and trained himself to think in visual metaphors. Tesla built entire machines in his head before ever touching a blueprint. Da Vinci questioned everything, even the truths everyone else blindly accepted. They didn't just use a different learning style. They ran a different operating system. They turned their minds into high-speed cognitive engines. And here's the good news. You can install that same mental software. Your brain is a supercomputer, but only if you know how to use it. And here's the crazy part. You already have the potential for limitless intelligence right now. The problem? No one ever gave you the manual. But that's what's about to change. Because what I'm about to show you next is the exact breakthrough that will reprogram your brain to learn faster, think sharper, and solve problems like a genius. Ready? Because this is the moment everything changes. Your mind is not fixed. It's not a rigid machine locked into one speed forever. It's a biological computer that rewires itself every second, adapting, growing, evolving based on how you use it. The problem is, most people never upgrade their mental software. They stay stuck in memorize and repeat mode. They follow instructions instead of questioning ideas. They learn at age 25 the same way they did at 15. But geniuses don't do that. They run mental upgrades. They learn faster. They see what others miss. They think in complex layers instead of simple steps. And the secret behind that? High-definition mental simulation. Most people think in words, sentences, lists, and facts. But geniuses think in simulations, images, motion systems. They don't read a concept. They live it in their minds, as if it were happening in real time. Einstein didn't write equations when developing relativity. He imagined himself riding a beam of light, watching time and space warp around him. Tesla didn't need blueprints. He mentally tested and refined his machines, running full simulations in his head. Da Vinci visualized human anatomy in layers, discovering what even doctors couldn't see. Because he didn't just think, he stepped inside the idea. And you can train your mind to work this way. Here's how. First, think in movies, not sentences. When most people learn something new, they treat it like a textbook. They read the words, repeat them in their mind, and try to memorize them later. That's why they forget 90% of what they learn. But what do geniuses do? They turn every concept into a mental film. For example, if you're learning history, don't just read it, visualize it. See the events unfold in front of you. If you're learning a new skill, imagine yourself doing it step by step, with realistic detail. If you're solving a problem, run a full mental simulation. Test every outcome within minutes. This technique activates more areas of your brain, making your learning faster, deeper, and longer lasting. So next time you're reading or trying to understand something new, pause, close your eyes, and turn it into a vivid mental film. Replay it, feel it, live it, because that's how a genius thinks. Replay it in your mind again and again until it feels real. Don't treat knowledge as mere words. See it as events you're living through. In that moment, you're no longer studying, you're experiencing. And that's exactly how the world's most brilliant minds learn. You're no longer memorizing, you're simulating. But mastering this mental simulation alone isn't enough. There's something hidden, something subtle yet dangerous, that can quietly destroy everything you're building. It's like a mental virus, spreading without symptoms. It's called thought pollution. Every idea you allow into your mind is either sharpening you or dulling you. The problem? Most of the thoughts we consume daily, whether from media, negative people, or passive scrolling, are silently programming us to become dull, reactive, and mentally weak. That's why the first real upgrade to your intelligence doesn't begin with learning something new. It begins by guarding what comes in. Imagine your brain as a highly sensitive receiver, constantly scanning for input. If you feed it fear, complaints, and noise, it will process reality through those distorted filters. But if you train it to focus on depth, analysis, and intentional thought, it will evolve without you even noticing. To do that, you must ask yourself a simple but unsettling question. Who planted my thoughts? Are you really the one choosing what you believe? Or were your beliefs installed by someone else years ago without your permission? If your answer feels vague or cloudy, then know this. There's still a background program running in your mind, one that quietly controls your actions, reactions, and even your ambitions. That's why geniuses don't just think clearly, they clean their mental environment. They know that intelligence isn't just built through learning, it's also protected through mental hygiene. Because without it, your greatest ideas will be drowned by the noise of a world that doesn't want you to think for yourself. Once your mind becomes a clean space, free from mental clutter and noise, something incredible begins to happen. Your ability to see patterns sharpens. You stop getting lost in surface details. Instead, you begin to notice the invisible threads connecting everything. While most people only see random facts, you start seeing systems. While others memorize, you synthesize. And this is the moment where your brain enters a new level, one that most never reach: nonlinear thinking. You stop learning in straight lines. You stop asking, "What's next?" and begin asking, "What's underneath?" or "What's connected?" Your mind becomes multidimensional. You begin to think in layers, not lists, in cause and effect, in complex interactions, not isolated events. This is why the greatest thinkers often seem to speak in metaphors, symbols, and strange imagery, because their minds are wired to think in systems, not sentences. They don't just learn facts, they reshape reality. And here's the key that unlocks this mental dimension: visual encoding. The most advanced thinkers don't store information as text. They store it as dynamic mental blueprints. Not just words, but visual sequences. Not just knowledge, but simulations they can rerun, explore, and remix in real time. This is why Albert Einstein imagined himself riding on a beam of light, rather than solving equations on a chalkboard. Why Nikola Tesla could mentally build an entire machine and test it in his imagination before touching a single tool. Why Leonardo da Vinci would visualize human anatomy in translucent layers, decades ahead of his time. They weren't just thinking, they were mentally experiencing. Every problem was a world they could enter. Every idea a room they could walk through. And you, too, can train your mind to think like this. So now you know the truth. Intelligence isn't a gift. It's a decision. A mental operating system you were never taught how to install. But now the choice is yours. Will you continue running on the outdated software they gave you? Or will you finally upgrade? Because genius is not born. It's built. And the construction starts now. If this awakens something in you, subscribe and join us on the journey to unlocking the mind's full potential. Don't just watch, evolve with us.